with Larry and Susan, Aletha, Tom, Kit. And we are grateful for the tech support Joanna Andros is offering, the music Marcia Oster is providing. We are gathered as dear friends and family to remember a woman whose life was woven together with creativity and laughter, elegance and beauty and style. Nancy nurtured her love of design and color to grow beautiful flowers, to host grand dinners, and support beauty and creativity in all that she touched. During our service, there will be a time to share your story, a moment of connection with Nancy during our service or following our service during the reception time. Welcome and let us join in a celebration of Nancy Rose Shepard, who touched all of our lives in deep and lasting ways. Again, welcome to all of you. Thank you for being here. We enter into our time of worship with a prelude offered by Marcia. Spirit of life and deep love, we're grateful to be held and embraced by your loving presence. We're called to celebrate life for its beauty and endurance. May we let our hearts be touched by memories of Nancy, whose life had creativity and resilience flowing through it. Her life was woven together with beauty and creativity, friendship and growth. All that she touched grew and became a thing of beauty and color. She was not afraid to travel and settle in new places, transforming old houses into elegant homes, using her talents to grow flowers, to create arrangements, and fostered so many connections with communities where she lived. She warmed our lives, our hearts, nurtured our spirits, and taught us to speak our minds and go toward what we wanted. We're each touched by challenges and losses in our lives, and Nancy's life was no different. We honor her resilience and ability to nurture and grow the many connections that we witnessed and saw and felt. May we let our minds be open to the words, the music, the silence. Blessed are we for the opportunity to gather today. Faithful are we that in times of transition and loss, we are held together by love. Grateful are we to embrace this time of learning and receiving. In celebration and memory, we honor the legacy of a life that was long and well lived. Let our hearts be filled with our memories of Nancy, who touched all of our lives deeply. In our Unitarian Universalist faith, we light a chalice flame at the beginning of each service to symbolize the light within us and within our community. This morning, Kit Tosman, Nancy's niece, will light our chalice flame and remember Nancy. If you have a candle, please join in this ritual of light with us and let your flame remind you of all that Nancy shared and gave you. Kit, you need to unmute. Unmute.
Here we go. Good morning, everyone. It's just awesome to see all of your faces, and that we can gather together this way is really special. When I was looking back through a lot of things, reading journals and things about trips and times with Nancy, I kept going back to the first time I remember a lot about her was in 1974 when I was invited to travel with her and Uncle Bob back to Maryland from Ohio after my sister's graduation. And I was pretty young then. and it was a scary day. Joanna, Emmeline, Julia, Emma, Grace, otherwise known as Gaga, Alita. I only knew a couple of these women, but thanks to Aunt Nancy, I came to feel closely connected to my New England lineage. I like to think this is a line of strong, resilient, courageous women who are also as real and flawed as we are, a combination of dark and light. We light our candles in honor of Nancy Stone Shepard, who lived a life fully, on her own terms, a woman of strength, independence, intelligence, artistry, creativity, caring, adventure, accomplishment, determination, gusto, and grit. She was a person of mystery, a survivor of loss, an overcomer of odds, imperfect, challenging, critical, and conflicting. She was human. From fashion designer to educator to parole officer to floral designer, she was a lover of beauty and beaches, history, fine food, the color blue, loyal friends, and high-end vodka. A master gardener and avid reader, she hated heat, humidity, she did it with appreciation and in recognition of the well-lived life of Nancy Morgan Stone Shepard. May the light illuminate our own lives and seep deeply into the corners of our hearts, filling us with comfort, courage, strength, grace, and mercy. Peace be with you. And peace be with you, Aunt Nancy.
Thank you, Kit. I offer Redbird, a poem by Mary Oliver. Redbird came all winter, firing up the landscape as nothing else could. Of course, I love the sparrows, those dun-colored darlings, so hungry and so many. I am a God-fearing feeder of birds. I know he has many children, not all of them bold in spirit. Still, for whatever reason, perhaps because the winter is so long, the sky so black blue, or perhaps because the heart narrows as often as it opens, I am grateful that Redbird comes all winter, firing up the landscape as nothing else can do. Nancy was our red bird, and she did fire up the landscape in so many unique ways. She offered a brilliance of mind and spirit, strong-willed, so creative. We will remember her for a long time. She traveled the world and so many communities here in this country, offering her vision and work to transforming an old house into an elegant home and growing flowers, so many flowers. Many of us are wearing pink or blue this morning to celebrate Nancy's deep love of color, bright color. She nurtured connections with the land she lived upon and the communities she lived in. Ultimately settling in Walpole in 1994, she began fostering connections, became a strong leader and supporter of the Garden Club, the Women of Walpole, the library, and our Unitarian Church. She hosted elegant dinners that many of us were able to attend that offer vivid and beautiful memories. She helped to orchestrate an elegant tea party that we hosted at our parish house with flowers and pink cloth napkins, a tribute to the traditions of high society. I recall many conversations with Nancy and was always impressed, if not a little bit intimidated, by her direct approach. She was never afraid to share her opinions and tell it like it was. She was strong-willed and strong-minded. I appreciated this honesty, but I do have to admit I was glad to be counted among those with whom she shared her opinions. Nancy nurtured connections, often took a leadership role in helping to coordinate events or celebrations. She was a leader. She grew her eye for color and design from her early schooling at the Tobe Coburn School of Design all throughout her life. And we witnessed this talent, those beautiful peonies, her beautiful dinner tables, the blue glass in her window contrasting with the deep pink of her walls. All of those beautiful arrangements that she won awards for, so creative. Her style was evidenced in all that she touched. She shared her creative and mind and wit with us too, and it was like a bright ray of unexpected sunshine when she offered that smile. We might wonder what idea or memory brightened her face, and usually she would let us know. Often she would share her opinion, not shying away from embracing the humor and seriousness of life. Nancy nurtured many connections, offered each of us an example of living that was bright and bold and beautiful. Use your talents, offer your creativity, be a leader, and always, always celebrate color. Appreciate the details of living. An unexpected flash of red as the bird flies by on a winter morning. The brilliant explosion of pink and yellow blooms. The warmth and honesty of being part of a circle of close friends. Honoring your family and heritage. Continuing to breathe life and nurture those traditions. Remembering the faces around her table, glasses lifted in celebration. Nancy offered her bright light through so many connections. Beauty and style abounded in all that she touched and grew into who she was. Marge Piercy says that connections are made slowly. Sometimes they grow underground. You cannot tell always by looking what is happening. More than half the tree is spread out in the soil under your feet. Penetrate quietly as the earth room that blows no trumpet. Spread like the squash plant that overruns the garden. Weave real connections, create real nodes, build real houses. Live a life you can endure. Make love that is loving. Keep tangling and interweaving and taking more in. A thicket and bramble wilderness to the outside, but to us interconnected with rabbit runs and burrows and layers. Live as if you liked yourself, and it may happen. Reach out, keep reaching out, keep bringing in. This is how we are going to live for a long time, not always. For every gardener knows that after the digging, after the planting, after the long season of tending and growth, the harvest comes. Nancy created and nurtured real connections. She lived as if she liked herself, reaching out, offering her creativity, her strength, her boldness, her style again and again. We are blessed to have known such a woman. Blessed be. We move into a time of sharing. If you have a story or memory of Nancy, be it uplifting, humorous, creativity, unexpected, there will be time to remember Nancy. Larry Spang, Nancy's nephew, and her sister Aletha will begin our time of sharing. And if you don't want to speak, but you want to type a memory into the chat box, that is also a possibility. Larry or Aletha, who would like to start?
Oh. Go ahead, Mom, you're first.
You're all set.
She's unmuted. She's unmuting. Oh.
You need
Aletha,
to
And I'm
you're
Larry's
muted.
mother, by the way.
There we
Uh,
go.
Nancy was my oldest sister, and I was always her baby sister, even up until my 85th birthday. And as such, she taught me many things: how to edge a garden properly, how to set a proper table, how to plant daffodils, how to clean the bottoms of her Revereware pans, and how to cook gourmet meals. And probably a few things my parents didn't want me to know. Nancy was a worker. During the war as a teenager, she worked picking beans, which started a lifetime dislike for green beans. And another summer, she worked canning tomatoes in a local factory. In between, she helped my parents with a large victory garden, which was probably the impetus for her love of gardening. I know it was mine, in spite of the tedious weaning. Nancy was a glamorous sister. She would arrive at Christmas with beautifully wrapped packages and decorated presents. Her flower gardens were exquisite. Her arrangements were unique. And she was always properly dressed and loved clothes, as you can tell if you take a peek in her closet. And as we all know how much she loved table linens, china settings, and good silverware, and entertaining with them, earning her the title of the Martha Stewart of Walpole. Nancy and I helped each other in good times and in stressful times. When my third child was born, she took the train from Florida to New Jersey with her pug Perky, who you saw a picture of, and helped care for my two older children. When we bought a house at the Jersey Shore, she jumped in with a bucket of white paint, and together we managed to transform the inside of the house. I helped her move twice, and she always said Walpole would be the last time. And thanks to the loving caregiving of my son and daughter-in-law, Susan and Larry, she was able to do just that. And as we sprinkled the flower petals on her grave, I thought, if her heaven did not have enough flowers, not to worry, she will be there planting them. That's it.
Thank you. Well, anyone who knows Nan knows she loved to tell stories about her past. And so like many of you, I feel like I've been a spectator to her amazing life. And I won't begin to try and outline it here, but there was a couple of things that I thought was interesting to think about as we remember her today. She moved to New York City in 1946. So her life over the next 15 years was certainly an important source of her fascinating stories. And what a time to be in New York, when it transformed into the place to be, the world center for finance, culture, and the arts. And she told us poignant stories about long nights at classic places like McDougal's Tavern, originally with the boys home from the war, as she would say. And it often sounded like they were there parting in relief that they'd survived the war, but also trying to get past some of the things they remember. Later, there were stories straight out of the TV show Mad Men, when she worked for a major real estate development firm in Midtown Manhattan during the 1950s. I remember her telling me the architect, I.M. Pei, was a nice man, always courteous and smiling, a pleasure to be with. Nancy quickly dismissed another architect, who will remain nameless, as a pompous ass and an SOB, though we all knew she'd never soften it by using those initials. Her travels were another source of her stories. She and Bob spent a year living in Bangkok in yet an amazing period, a time during the war in the Southeast, and Thailand was becoming a modern country. She crossed the ocean twice on glamorous ocean liners. And I never heard the end of the time my mom and I, when I was 2 or 3, dragging my dirty damn blanket, as she called it, dropped her off at the pier so she could get on the Queen Mary. And of course, she loved to tell stories about her more recent travels to Europe with Harriet and Klaus and a number of others who I see from this call. She could always tell you exactly where they stayed and exactly what they had for dinner, even though I could barely remember what I ate last week. But for me, the most important stories were the ones she told about our family heritage. She loved to talk about the Morgans, the Westons, the Knapps, and the Stones, all parts of our extended family tree. She grew up listening to Uncle Melvin and Aunt Marion from her mother's side, and seemed to get her love of ancestry from them. She could tell you who lived when and where, which granduncle married which grandaunt, and seemed to bring the stories alive as if she knew them all, even though, of course, time would not have made that possible. She traveled up to Brome in Quebec to track down the Stone family farm, to understand where her father had come from. And in the past few years, we made several expeditions to some of the local cemeteries, where she would show us the family plots and explain our heritage. So as we gather together to remember Nan, I think it's appropriate to remember her stories, that who you are and where you come from are a larger part of what binds us together. So thank you, Nan. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Larry. If anyone has a brief story they'd like to share now, just raise your hand and we can hear those stories. Be bold. She'd want you to be bold. Tell your story. Libby, just unmute when you begin talking.
Okay. When I think of Aunt Nancy, my first thought is of daffodils. Not only did she love them, but daffodils can teach us to be fearlessly yourself, and the world would be a more beautiful place for it. Daffodils are strong and persistent, like my Aunt Nancy. They are bold and vibrant and grow in trying conditions. Aunt Nancy worked tirelessly to create gardens that were strong, healthy, and beautiful. She impressed me with her mastery, passion, and fierce dedication to high standards, both in her gardens and life in general. She was strong-willed, intelligent, witty, and independent. Just like daffodils, she persevered through trying situations to achieve her heart's desires. The farm is testimony to her vision, dedication, and hard work. Just like daffodils, Aunt Nancy had a vibrancy about her because she had a strong sense of self and was dedicated to her beliefs. Aunt Nancy was a class act, many times leading by example, whether it be with her fashion and design or creativity with her gardens and flower arrangements. I'm grateful for our conversations, for they were peppered with knowledge and insights about life, and the paths we choose. The Aunt Nancy I will carry forward in my heart is the strong, independent woman who wasn't afraid to express her passion about what she enjoyed in life. It is a gift indeed. I learned there are over 50 species of daffodils with over 10,000 varieties. But as far as I'm concerned, Aunt Nancy was one of a kind. Thank you.
Thank you, Libby. Who else might have a story? Tom.
Well, thank you. I got to know Nancy kind of in between the years we've discussed. She married my great uncle, Robert Shepard. And that was when she came down to Maryland, Indian Quarter Road or Tom's Choice, depending on when you happen to drive by. It was outside of Cambridge, Maryland. She and my uncle Robert refurbished a 99-acre, I'll call it an estate, but it was 99 acres and it had an old house that they refurbished. And I saw, we've heard reference to the hard work and also the creativity of Nancy, but I really saw the hard work because it was 99 acres that needed to be cared for, particularly in the spring, summer, and fall when the seasons down there really pumped up the grass and all the other beautiful plantings that she had on her property. It was a beautiful place, beautiful wildlife. And I remember we used to go down there. I went down there one time. My uncle Robert asked me if I'd like to visit. And I said, sure. You know, I had an interest in crabbing. And I think I was a sophomore in high school at the time. And so he said, well, come on down. I have some friends who do, crabbing for soft shells and you can join them. Well, I went down and the long and the short of it is I ended up moving big slabs of marble for 6 days. And the 7th day I got to go out in a boat and crab. So that was, thank you, Robert Shepard. Nancy was, I'm not going to say she was a co-conspirator, but she sure didn't stop that. But I loved the time down there. I loved getting together when I was a little older, and I'm not sure, I'm sure I was over 18. I'm not sure I was over 21, but we used to always have Bloody Marys. And I'd look forward to starting the happy hour earlier and earlier. And then she and Robert would put on some sumptuous spread, which was just delicious. And I really loved and learned to respect her a lot. I loved her opinionated way of saying things. And the thing I loved about her is you could disagree with her and there was no permanent damage done. You know, you'd still be back with each other and friends again and start in the next round. And I really love that about Nancy. My uncle, I also was probably I suspect and I know that I was the only one on this call who witnessed her getting married to Robert. That actually happened down at Fort Belvoir, and it was a lovely ceremony and lovely to see. And she was just a lovely woman in all respects. When Robert passed, she moved into Cambridge itself with Big Tim, her beautiful Airedale dog, who she loved dearly. But Cambridge was not the town for her. It was not the place. And as you heard somebody reference, hot, humid weather was not Nancy's favorite climb. So for that reason, she was going to only ever be a short timer there. And she ultimately did move up to Walpole. And boy, I don't think I've ever seen her happier than kind of hitting back to the roots. You know, bless her heart. Onward and upward. I hope she's somewhere wonderful, having a great time, because she gave a lot of us a great time. So long, Nance.
Thank you, Tom. Who else might have a story? Jürgen?
Gosh, have a lot of stories, but Nancy would say, well, you're a writer, just write something. So I wrote something, and it's for you, Nan. Comes a woman in this life, an enigma, an anomaly, full of grit and strife, bears a burden of isolation built of strength and determination, adventurous, cantankerous, creative and kind, full of opinions and judgments, but sound of mind. Of history, she knew them fierce, of Stone and Morgan, Knapp and Pierce, a lineage of solidity. She spoke also of stupidity. With filters off and unabated, her countenance indeed frustrated, she'd spin a yarn of family and friend, one never knew what would portend. She did not care what one might think about her life, her choice of drink. The truth she spoke, she loved, she laughed, and never muled. Her epitaph, here lies a woman fierce and kind, who gave a damn, who spoke her mind, who loved her family, garden, home, and friend, and had it her way until the end. Love, Nan.
Mhm. Thank you.
What? Hi.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi. I'm not sure I can even talk after some of this. What a wonderful poem. Thank you so much. I guess I wanted to just kind of share a few little sort of, I don't know, times. I was about 8 or 9 maybe when I was really aware of Nancy. Though I do remember being at Betsy's wedding. No, was it Betsy's wedding? Yes, I think so. Maybe both. Anyway, when we were living in Milton and Nancy was in New York, she would call and say, I think I'm going to come up for a visit. And my parents would just light up. It was like this wonderful thing coming into our life, because mostly it was just the 3 of us at home. And so she would arrive at 128 station, and my father would pick her up, and she would arrive, and I remember just thinking, oh my goodness, this woman, she is the most glamorous, just the most exciting, the most interesting, and the whole conversation in the house would go up however many levels. And even, when I was that age, I would just kind of bask in that. And if she had a little bit of grooming advice, I would always take it. And so that was sort of my first interactions with her, and they were so wonderful. Later, I remember visiting in New York and going to her office and thinking, oh, again, so glamorous, so exciting. And then later, when she was down in Indian Quarter, we visited several times with our family. As other people have said, we were immediately put to work. Whether it was, I think there were some pillars or something.
Garage
pillars had to be moved, whatever. And the little cottage that we stayed in was they were having a little problem with the septic system or something. And so you sort of had to walk a little bridge almost to get into it. But the cocktail hours were wonderful. The tennis was wonderful. And the first time we went, I think Liz was a baby, and I can remember her lying on the porch with Perky going snoop around. And later, when the children were older, it was actually the last time we visited there. She was about to move out of the house. I think it was the last night that she was in the house. And so at the end of the evening, she said, now go to bed and in the morning, strip your bed and unplug the lights and do all these things. But before we went to bed, she said, well, there's this bunch of old liqueurs around. I don't really want to take them with us. Liz, I could see Liz laughing down here. And so she said, well, let's just try some of these. So we tried some of those. Well,
more than some.
and by the time we went to bed, I wasn't quite sure what was up and what was down. And the children were scandalized. Anyway, somehow or other we survived. And we got up the next morning and we made our bed and we unplugged things and we packed whatever we could in our car. And we drove to Cambridge, Maryland and helped her move whatever it was we dragged out in the house and bid her goodbye. And I don't remember going back down there again, but happily, shortly, not too long after that, she moved to Vermont, and we saw her most years, one way or another, whether it was weddings. She did flowers for our children's weddings, as she did for so many people. And those were wonderful times to visit with her. So, and we were very sad that the COVID crisis made it impossible to see her the last year and a half or so. So anyway, our memories are so fond, and we will remember her. Thanks.
Kathy Reardon.
Judith, sorry.
I'm Judy Patterson. I'm Susan's mother in Florida. I just loved hearing all the great life that Nancy lived. And I thought that your reflections, Miss Whitfield, were just beautiful and well spoken. And of course, I love poetry. I thought the poem was wonderful. So my heart goes out to all of you with the loss of amazing Aunt Nancy. It was a magical world that I went to at Smoke Rise Farm. My love is with the whole family. When I first went to the farm, it was the end of October, and coming from Florida, it was freezing, just freezing. And we slept upstairs in the unfinished bedroom. We slept in a 3/4 bed that was like a hammock. And my husband was a big man, so it was a whole new experience, I must say. And then we came, we planted 80 bulbs for the spring too. And Susan was 8 or 9 months pregnant, so that was quite an adventure. And then when we came back I came back the next time, she had redecorated the second floor, and I had a room in yellow, my favorite color. I sat in a wicker chair, my favorite furniture, and her room was lined with her father's books. And so I'd sit in the wicker with the books. Were fascinating. Looking out at the landscape, there was an apple tree in full bloom. It was such a magical world. It was wonderful. And I felt really enriched being there, the way she decorated her whole house, all her artistic bents and all. And Susan took me in the barn and we looked at all the baskets and the arrangements for the flowers. I mean, it was really, anyway, Nan's flowers will bloom again, and that'll make our hearts sing. I shall remember her always with fond memories and love. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. We will move into a time of a musical interlude. And if a story or memory comes to your mind, we'll have time at our reception to share those. also. Reverend Scott Johnson will offer a reflection.
So Aunt Nancy was my aunt, and I'm grateful for the chance to bring some final reflections here. It's kind of like we have been, I'm just reminded of the first time I ever saw the moon through a telescope and seeing the craters and everything up so close, and it really was just an amazing sight. And then the person drew the telescope back, just kept panning back farther and farther. And then you could see the whole of the moon, then you could see it amongst the stars. And so we've done this close up of Aunt Nancy in our life. So my reflection is a drawing back now to see how this all fits in maybe a wider scope. And I'm reminded here of great words of the Apostle Paul to his understudy Timothy, with whom he shared many, many occasions. For I am already being poured out like a drink offering, and the time for my departure has come. I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, and I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. So one of the most vivid and descriptive words in the original Greek of the New Testament is analusis. And the Apostle Paul employed this Ana Lucis in this passage that he wrote actually from a Roman prison cell. And he penned this word to describe departure. And it was be his departure from prison to paradise, and that his death in choosing this word Ana Lucis was an untying and a moving on. So really on February 7th of 2021, at a snow-draped smoke rise farm in Walpole, New Hampshire, a mysterious untying and moving on took place. It was a silent, peaceful, and a gracious early morning Ana Lucis for Nancy Stone Shepard. And speaking of this departure as an Ana Lucis, the Apostle Paul was drawing from 4 different worlds within the Holy Land, but I also found it interesting that these were worlds in which Aunt Nancy also walked as well. So the first world is the farming world, and the farmers used the term Ana Lucis for untying work animals. So they could be untied from the yokes, the plows, and the grinding stones, and then go into the stalls and into their confines where they could do 2 things, eat and rest. So our departure from this life and this world as an Ana Lucis is an untying from the labors of this life so that we can enter an eternal rest in the banquet table of the Lord. And I think of all the farming in and around Walpole and how much Nancy loved that area and all those farm animals. And back in the days when they would have been hitched to plows and things like that, at the end of the work, they would be untied and they would be taken in to rest and find food. And so we trust now that Nancy was untied from all, not only the labors of this world, but the things that labored her. And we all experience that. We labor, but we also have been labored, and that she might find eternal rest and her place at that banquet table. So when Paul used this word Ana Lucis, the readers of his time would also know that this was a word that was used to speak of untying or unchaining prisoners so that they could be set free. And I was thinking how there are things that do chain us down, things that hold us captive in life. Sometimes it's physical limitations, other times it's worries, addictions, sins we commit, pains from our past and our present. And I think here of the many souls that Nancy touched, and in touching them, unchained them when she was a probation officer. That was one of my early memories of dialogue with Nancy and finding out about that life, which was a serving life, and how she helped unbind people from their untold pains and chains. So for Nancy, the chains that have held her or bound her in this life, I've been broken. And I think of that great saying, free at last, thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. The third one, Ana Lucis, was used of Bedouin shepherds in the Holy Land. When the sheep had totally grazed out an area, it was time to break camp and move on. So the term Ana Lucis was used to untie the ropes that hold the tent to the stakes so that the tent could be rolled up and break camp and move on to greener pastures. And in many respects, friends, we're not permanent residents here on earth. We're temporary. We are tenters. And Nancy put down her tent in many different places, and her favorite was, of course, Smoke Rise Farm. But there comes a time when we need to, and we will, untie our tent, and we will break camp, and we will move on, and we will move beyond. And on February 7th, the tent was untied, and it was rolled up because Nancy was moving on, and she was moving beyond. The fourth woe is, I think, really telling of her that I remember so much about my Aunt Nancy. And Ana Lucis was used by the mariners. It was used by the people who plied the seas. It was a term that was used to refer to the departure of a ship. And you would untie the mooring rope so that the ship could set sail. And so we got a picture here of Nancy and Bob. And it's an untying. And think of Bob and Nancy and how they would cast off and go and experience new adventures and new vistas and new lands. And I just want to say that on February 7th, the mooring ropes that held Nancy to this world, they were untied. In the stillness of that New England morning, a gentle wind filled her sails. She headed for the open seas that would take her to new adventures, new vistas, new lands, ones that you will never see as long as you're moored here in this port and on this planet. So Aunt Nancy, we wish you bon voyage. May all your ropes be untied. May all your chains be broken. May the winds be fair. May your rest be eternal. May your feast be festive. You have finished your race, and may the peace that passes all understanding be yours forever. And amen.
Thank you, Scott. We come to the close of our service. If you have a candle or a chalice that you would like to extinguish at this time, we will extinguish these flames, but we will continue to hold our stories, our memories of Nancy in our hearts. Thank you, Nancy, for all you have given us this day and all the years of your life. Gracious abiding presence, be with us as we remember and grieve, celebrate and honor Nancy in the coming days, weeks, months, and years. We are blessed to have been in this circle together. May it be ever so. Amen. Marcia. And that beautiful piece is called Buds and Blossoms and is an original composition by Marcia. So, and we thought it was so perfect for this service for honoring Nancy. We are moving into our more informal time of reception. So if you have a story or something you'd like to share with the family, this is our time. So, you know, unmute and we can have a virtual conversation possibly. But thank you so much for being here together. It was an honor to be part of this service. It's beautiful. So happy that you were here, that we were all here together.
Thank you. That was marvelous. Thank you.
Someone's if you're muted, just unmute if you want to share something. I don't know that I'm going to orchestrate it as formally as I did during the service. So if you unmute and just say, I'd like to share something, we can hear you.
I'd like to share something. We all have yards full of daffodils and tulips, thanks to Nancy. One thing I wanted to say, when we were building the orchard here, we were furnishing lots of rooms. So Nancy, we'd have a piece of furniture and she was dressed in her nice clothes. She would just throw down some newspaper, get out a can of spray paint and make something new and beautiful. She did that all the time. It amazed me, you know. And I also wanted to say what a pleasure to meet so many family members. I've met Althea and Tom Spang many times in the past, but the rest of you I have not met. So I just wanted to say thank you. It was nice for us to see those beautiful pictures. And Larry and Susan, my goodness, thank you for the show and for everything. Thank you.
Susan, this is Jürgen. And I just have to say that I got to tell you that Nancy and I and Kit, one night, we were feeling pretty wild and crazy, and Nancy and I had a little too much to drink. And I shouldn't have been behind the wheel, but I was. And we drove up into the orchard, through the back way into the orchard. And there were a couple of really nice apple trees where we pulled off a couple of apples and had ourselves a good laugh.
That's wonderful. Yeah, we had lots of dinners, lots of drinks, lots of giggles, lots of good times. Nancy was a real giggler. I love that about her.
Yeah, she was always good about bending the rules a bit. I remember going down to the cemetery in Walpole with her, and she wanted to put in some bushes for our my grandparents, her parents. And of course, there's the big sign that says no planting. And she said, well, don't worry about that, ignore that. And we planted them, and sure enough, those were there for at least 10 or 15 years before they got so unruly somebody decided to take them down. But she was good about just sort of ignoring the signs and the rules and the regulations and just do what needs to be done.
Hello, everybody. I'm Susie, and Susan, we were up this past July, Steve and I, to a dinner party with you and Harriet and Klaus. And I brought daffodils back from the farm to Ohio. And with me is my darling mother, who is Betsy and Nancy's younger sister. And so we brought her down from Willowbrook community down to our new condo to be a part of this service. And it's so nice to see everybody. And Teddy, you're still on. I stayed at your house for one of the birthday parties. And so it's great to see everybody. You want to say hi to anybody?
Yeah, I would say hi to everybody and people on this video that I did not know. It's been several years since we visited Nan. I think the last time was her 80th birthday. And I've had some phone conversations with her, but not many. I sort of felt she didn't really like talking on the telephone very much. She wanted to see you in person. But because of my husband and myself, we were not able to make that drive. And the last one we went was her 80th birthday.
Mhm. And Mom and Dad's connection with Smoke Rise Farm was they honeymooned at the farm.
That's right.
Yep.
We honeymooned at the farm. The well was practically dry. And so we were offered to shower at, oh, I can't remember her name now.
Well, and then you could use the 3-holer.
Yes.
They took it out.
Yeah, I know. Progress, you know.
Celia never wanted to go out there by herself.
I don't blame her.
I don't know what's going to come up out of those things, huh?
Exactly. And Sadie, are you trying to unmute?
I think Aletha is as well. Trying to unmute. We see you, Aletha. There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
You're not muted, Mom.
Now I'm unmuted.
Yeah.
You're good.
Okay. You know, one thing nobody ever mentioned was that Larry and Susan were married at Smoke Rise Farm.
Well, the picture of the 3 of you. Oh, sorry.
Married in the orchard. And of course, it poured rain that day.
Right.
Scott and Susie, and Kit were all there. They were all up cleaning out the barn so we could move the wedding into the barn.
And Sadie?
Of course, Nancy did the flowers, yes.
Yeah. And Sadie?
Yeah.
The picture of the 3 of you were taken at Larry and Susan's wedding in the slideshow.
Yeah, yes. One of them, yeah. One of them. The one where I'm wearing a corsage.
Yes.
Letha, I don't remember, I don't recall whether you remember the way the barn worked. I think there was some sort of a covering at the end of the barn, and we managed to take it down so that the service was against the backdrop of the outdoors and the rain and the cows in the fields. I have very, very strong memories of that wedding.
Yep.
It was so idyllic. A great way for Susan and Larry to start a wonderful marriage.
Yep.
Yes, it was.
While I have the floor, I'll just mention one other thing. It's been mentioned several times that Nancy enjoyed a cocktail hour. We have a Nancy Shepard bottle of vodka, which is reserved for her because no one ever drinks vodka in our house. And as the bartender of record, her order was very simple. She'd say, get a good sized glass, fill it full of ice, and fill it full of vodka, and then hand it to me. And that will be my drink. Thank you very much.
Right. Don't forget the vermouth.
She wasn't into,
I think
she
the
wasn't
vodka
into
was the
vermouth.
important part.
Oh,
Yeah.
she was.
No, I don't think you put a lemon though. You forgot the lemon, Bill.
Oh, thank you, Lisa.
Susan and Larry, the slideshow was absolutely amazing. I mean, it was so beautiful to see her as a baby, a small child, and then all throughout her life. It was really a special gift. Yeah.
Well, she has plenty of photographs here.
As we say, you'll all be getting some.
Is there a way that you can send us a copy of the slideshow? I would love that.
I can send the photos that I use, maybe. I don't know if I can actually do the slideshow. I could record it at the end, so it'll be part of the recording.
That would be wonderful.
That's a good idea. Yeah, put it as part of the recording. That's a great idea.
I'll just do it at the end.
And what
Yeah.
about the poem? Could we?
Yes.
sometimes
Jürgen, could you
poem?
make the poem available to Susan and Larry so it could be shared with all of us? It was such a wonderful poem.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
that would be lovely.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you very much.
And I like Scott's reflections too. If you can send them to us. I like your metaphor of untying the strings.
I'll send it to Larry and Susan, and then they can.
We'll disperse it.
That's fine. I'll be in touch with them.
Larry, I would not have recognized you with the beard and the mustache.
Ah, yes.
And I haven't seen you in a long time either.
It has been a long time.
I thought it was the tie that did it.
Yeah.
You know, we should really do this again.
Well, not for this
Family.
reason. Not for this reason.
The extended family. No.
Well, we can have a family reunion up at the farm once COVID is, we're able to do that.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
That sounds fantastic. Yeah, that's
We're talking about Aunt Nancy, not only adventurous, but pushing the boundaries. I don't know how many know this, but when she and Uncle Bob were in Thailand, they actually crossed the border into Cambodia. When it was illegal for US citizens to be in Cambodia.
Whoops.
Yeah.
The part I was amazed by looking through the photos is that she actually went camping, which
all across the United States.
Yeah,
In a canvas tent.
Really?
yeah, we got that story too.
Yeah, they took grandma.
Yeah.
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 It was like camping for her was the Holiday Inn.
Right.
No,
Into the untying of the tent stakes. I didn't know that they had camp, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, by camping like that.
Yeah, there was a long story that ended it, something about, I'm never gonna have to change in a place I can't stand up again. There was a few cusses in there too. I can't remember.
That's good.
I love to think of Nancy camping. I love it.
Yep.
But by the way, does anyone remember what the other amazing, I don't know what you call it, unexpected, but maybe not unexpected thing in Indian Quarter with the snakes?
Yes.
Oh God, that's stories.
In
We were
that
sitting
couch.
on the porch and they were, overhead on the slings that they had to sit on to keep them from dropping.
How about the one in the dryer? Do you remember that story?
Oh, yeah.
The snake got through the dryer vent and was actually in the dryer. And so Uncle Bob took and chopped it off. And then he had to pull the thing out of the dryer.
Oh.
I mean, it was big. It was big.
Yeah.
She hated snakes.
The big black snakes.
Yeah, that came to my mind too when thinking about Indian Quarter. That that
lay out
they would
on warm
lay
days,
out
they would lay out along
on
that
warm days.
ledge
They
in
would
front
lay
of
out
the
on
house.
that ledge in
And
front of
one
the
time
house.
there was
And
one,
one time there was a horsehair couch in the cute little cottage, and a
Yeah.
snake came out of that one day.
Mhm.
I've just never seen such big snakes before. But those were great days down at Indian Quarter. Really good memories there. And that's where Nancy had me try steamed clams and oysters for the first time when I was about 14 years old. And she said, "Oh, you'll like them." No, not too much. But I love the crabs. The soft-shelled crabs were awesome.
Mhm.
would you like me to play the slideshow one last time
Yes,
as an ending?
yes.
That was nice.
Thank you all for your stories, for being here together.
Before
Thank
you
you.
do that, I just want to really thank Susan and Larry for all you've done. All you did for her, all you helped, all just being there and helping her to pass with the dignity and grace that she does so deserved. You have been there to the nth degree. Thank you.
Well, it was an
Thank
honor
you.
for us to be there with
She
her.
could not have stayed there without all the help that Larry and Susan gave to her.
Mhm.
True. So thank
Yes.
you.
And she said the only way she was gonna leave the farm was feet first,
And she did.
and she did.
Huh?
So Larry did tempt to have thought about having them go head first.
Very tempting, but no, we'll follow the rules on that one.
You followed her wishes to the end there.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Good to see you, Steve.
Nice to see
Good
you.
to see you. Mhm.
Yeah.
Wonderful to see everyone.
Oops. I have to go back. God.
Oh, the Dutch cut.
Yeah.
That's Prospect Hill.
Mm-hmm. There's another picture of her graduation.
That was, well,
Rose looks like she's scowling here.
That's the famous picture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's the class picture.
It's in New York.
Graduation.
Mhm. My mother was there and I was there. We were both there.
Cambridge.
There's a whole bunch of pictures here.
He said that,
Christmas.
he said that, yeah.
Christmas.
The ladies' luncheon show is at dinner, excuse me.
And there's Audrey.
This is the 75th. Okay.
I think that's when she took the
church.
Yeah. There's Bruce and Aletha.
Did quite a job.
That was a table set.
That's a nice one.
Still have here.
Yeah.
That was the one taken at
The
Lorraine's.
wedding, yeah.
That was one of the birthday parties.
That's all she needed for her birthday. Yeah.
Where was that again? Oh, at the place we stayed. Oh, yes.
She did do a yoga class.
Oh, did she?
I went with her just once.
Kitty doesn't want that.
Does look like a ball. That's the narrow one, I think. She really did a great job with that part. Never such a wreck early on. All the work she did in the barn. Susan, yeah. Great job, Susan and Larry.
Lovely.
Thank you.
I was just gonna say.
I hope all of you take good care. And again, it was such an honor and pleasure to be here together. So
Thank you
may you
very
have a
much.
beautiful rest of your day, and any color that you see, any bird that you see, we can think of Nancy. Blessings.
Thank
You
you.
all. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thanks, fellows.
Thank you to all.
And
It
thank
was
you, Marcia.
wonderful.
Yes.
Mm,
Guess we should Time to leave.
So good to see you.
Hi, Mom.
Hi.
Hi. Where are you?
Teddy's here.
Good to see you.
Thank you for joining.
Mwah.
And there's a CD opener.
Yeah.
We're looking like this because we're watching it on the TV.
You can look at the camera.
Well, no.
Susie, I like the color wall behind you. Very
Well,
sharp.
thank you. Thank you. We're in our new condo.
Yeah, nice.
Oh, that's nice.
So,
Oh, love to all.
Yep.
yes.
Mwah.
Thank you all.
That was
Good
wonderful.
guys.